You know, recently I was on YouTube and I was going through the YouTube search and I was kind of wondering, is there any videos out there that really show how to flip a car, like an actual guide on how to do it? And I saw plenty of videos showing how they do it themselves and a little story time with that, but nothing really teaching you to do it yourself. So boom, I got you. This video is going to be covering exactly that. I'll be covering some of the really important things like how to check a car to make sure it's not a lemon, how to come up with the right price that you should pay, and the best way that you could sell the car to make good profit and quickly too. And the awesome thing about this video too is that this is going to be catered for people that are going to be using either private sale to buy cars or auctions, because that's what I do myself. So it really doesn't matter which one you're using. It's a lot to cover, so let's try to get into it now. What's up? My name is Jamal from Flipping University. In this channel, I help people that don't have a lot of mechanical experience build a scalable business by flipping cars. And as a quick thing before we get into it, I will say this is primarily going to be a beginner's guide, somewhat for advanced people, but mainly for beginning people. I'm going to do my best to make this a really short, in-depth training about how to flip cars, but realistically, flipping cars in general in itself is actually a much bigger skill set to really cover. I could probably make a full 5 to 10 hour video just on this topic alone, because there's a lot that goes into it. But I'm going to do my best to really compress all that information and hit some of the biggest points. So the first point to really go over in the first section is really about making sure that you're picking the right car to even begin with. And for that, if you're just beginning, I would really suggest sticking to more reliable types of cars, like Japanese cars, for instance, rather than something like a European car, because European cars, like let's say BMWs or even Volvos or Volkswagens, they could just have a lot more issues with them. So if it is where you don't have a lot of mechanical experience yourself, it could be a nightmare when it comes time to actually getting that thing ready for sale in the future. The next point is you have to make sure that you're checking the VIN for the cars. This is primarily for going to private sale. If you're going through auctions, usually you could already see what the VIN numbers are and the title status and different things like that. But if you're going through private sale, you have to do this. So the first thing is going to Carfax values. Again, it's Carfax values too, not regular Carfax. Of course, Carfax in itself, there's a price to it for each car you're doing. Carfax values is free. So you type in your vehicle information, like the VIN number and all that good stuff. Boom, you press get the Carfax value. And I'm just going to be using a car that I'm actually flipping myself too. But it pulls up a couple things. First, it shows the retail value, private sale party value, trade-in value. All that's good. You could use that for other things. But the main thing we're going to be using is what the last report was for the mileage. So there's going to be somewhat of a rough estimate. It's not going to give you the exact mileage. But let's say if it is where, people like to do things like rolling back the mileage for their cars and different things like that. You know how people are sketchy nowadays. It'll show you that right here. And all you have to do is just put in the VIN number to do this, and it's completely free again. Now, the next site we're going to be using is called NICB. This is what we're going to be using to actually do a title check for the car to see if it's actually a clean title or not, which is again something that you should be checking before you go to see any vehicle. Of course, I already know this one is all good, but this is how it's going to show if it's actually a clean title. It'll show a check mark for both of them, for the theft record and a total loss record. If it's an X mark, most likely it's either a rebuild title, or let's say it could be a total loss, or maybe it was stolen previously. But this is good stuff that you really want to try to know before you go to check out the car. Again, primarily for private sale cars. The last thing to hit on this section, and this again is for the private sale cars, but in a very short moment we're going to be getting into the cars that you could be getting from the auction as well. But with this one, let's say if you are looking through private sale, this is Facebook Marketplace, of course, is one of the main areas that most people will be looking for cars too. I would suggest using this as well yourself. But along with that, I would also say you should use the filter settings to your advantage as well, mainly going for the newest first, primarily because, of course, let's say if it's a really good price that's listed for a car and it's just posted up, everyone's going to be trying to see it. Most likely, if it's a really good price, even within a couple of days, possibly even within a couple of hours, it's going to be gone. So if you see a good listing coming up, you got to make sure that you jump on that as soon as possible. Okay, so now we're outside. The birds are chirping. It's a beautiful day in winter. This is not usual in New York. Oh wait, let me get back to the video. So yeah, we're outside. We're gonna actually go into checking out the car as well. And then again, this is going to go into what you could do regardless if it's private sale or if you're at the auction. So of course, there's a lot of things that you should hit. Of course, making sure that the car actually looks as good as it is in the listing and different things like that. We're just going to hit the main points. If you guys do want to see a video of me actually going full in depth of how to check out a car, I'll make a video about that. Just drop it in the comments below. But the first thing I will usually do when it comes to doing a real check for a car is doing a smog check, which is just checking the iron readiness status for the car. This is the main thing that you're going to be doing to check to see if the codes were erased for the car. And let's say, of course, this one's primarily good, I already know that, but let's say if the codes were erased, you'd see a bunch of incomplete monitors right in this area over here. Then if that's all good, then I would go back and then I would check to see if there's any engine lights that's coming up, if there was any codes that came up in the system with the iron readiness check. Again, I already know this one's gonna be good, but I would do the check. And then from there, if there are any codes that comes up, you could just do a quick Google search nowadays and you could see generally what you can do to fix whatever code comes up in the system. Then if that's looking all good, then the main other thing that you would go into checking would be under the hood. And you don't want to just start looking all over the place under the hood. The main things you're looking for is in general just making sure that the engine and the transmission is going to be good, because that's going to be the highest repairs that you can make in terms of cost. So the first thing usually would be checking under the engine cap. You're going to be lifting that up, checking underneath to see if there's any milky, frothy residue, as well as the dipstick for the car. Of course, I already know that that's all good for this, but you want to just make sure that's the same for yours. But basically look the same if it's on the dipstick as well. You could also check under the coolant reservoir. You want to check in there to make sure that's all good, and then you want to mainly just have it be where it looks like almost clear liquid in there. It doesn't look like there's a bunch of debris or any type of like milky residue in there as well as just checking around to see if there's any leaks coming from anywhere. If there's any oil leaks around the engine bay or different things like that, that could be somewhat of a big fix as well for certain vehicles. Next thing after that, really quick, would be checking under the car for leaks. And not only would it be for leaks if there's anything dripping down below, but also for rust, and that's another big point. If there's any rusting on the car, and you're mainly going to be checking around the frame of the car, a little surface rust isn't bad, especially if you're in an area like I am in New York. There's probably going to be some type of rust there. But if it's where you're actually seeing things rusted out and there's holes in the panels and different things like that, that could be a big problem. Then as the last thing, again, whether you're doing this at an auction, I will say some auctions, they might not have it where you could actually drive it. Depends which one you're going to. But if you can drive it, that would be great. And your main thing that you're going to be checking for is, let's say, how the transmission shifts. If it can go through at least a couple gears, like the first, second, third gear, that would be good. If it's where it looks like it's struggling to get into gear, that's a problem. I would stay away from it unless you want to have that fixing job yourself. Okay, now we're back outside, and this is mainly to talk about buying the car for the right price. Now, first understand, this is probably one of the most important parts of the whole process. When you're flipping a car, or really when you're flipping most things, the main money that you're making off of it is really off of the purchase, not off of the sale itself. If you're trying to buy it for any price and then just mark it up and sell it after for some crazy price, it's probably gonna end up sitting there for a long time. No one's gonna wanna buy it. It's not gonna be good for you. All right, so to get the pricing that you should buy it for, one of the main references as a quick reference that you could use is Kelley Blue Book. Now, the area that we're in now in Kelley Blue Book, the trade-in value section for buying the car. And as a quick thing too, I'm also using that same car that I was talking about that I was flipping myself, the Subaru Outback. Now, this is gonna show you the price that you basically get if you're trading in the car to a dealership. And this is actually what a lot of people on YouTube tell you to do as well. But that's dumb. Don't do that yourself. Realistically, this is a value that is kind of just completely made up. It doesn't really give you an accurate representation of what you should be basing your value for buying the car for. The best option would be going to see what the real value of the car is, basing to see what you could sell the car for, and then work backwards off of that based off of what profit you want to get off the car. In Kelley Blue Book, that's not the only reference you can use, but it's one of the ones that you could use. And realistically, when people are buying the cars themselves, this is one of the main websites they use themselves. So it's good to quickly check as well yourself. But let's say with this car, it sells anywhere in that range between $4,000 to $7,000. So what you want to do is pick a number in between there that you could realistically try to sell it for. Let's say as a reference point, I'll use $5,000. That's somewhere in the middle there. And then let's say, all right, I want to make, I don't know, $2,000 profit off of the car. You have to subtract the amount that you could sell it for, that $5,000 minus the $2,000, which means that you shouldn't be paying more than $3,000 for the car all in. And that's with what you have to pay for the car itself, plus expenses to buy the car, for parts and different things like that when it comes to fixing it up, which you should be keeping in mind when you're inspecting the car and different things like that. Now, what I will say as a quick reference point too, just to help you guys out if you're going to be going regardless of to a private sale party car or an auction car, and you want to have a way that you can kind of put all these different points into one, which is like the main points that you really need to cover for buying a car to flip. I did actually put together a free checklist just highlighting these main points. If you didn't get it yet, you can go to the link in the description below. But that just puts it in an easy format so that you could either download it on your phone or you could take it as a sheet with you and you could check off everything that you need to check when you're actually gonna be buying your next car. All right, so now we're back outside just to talk about what you should be doing to get the car ready for sale as well. And there's a lot of different aspects to this, but again, I'm gonna hit some of the main points that you should be covering. So the first thing would really be hitting the safety things first. You shouldn't be selling a car that's possibly gonna literally break down on them, or the wheels are gonna fall off right down the road, or it's gonna cause some accident or something like that. So you have to think about the things that would affect them potentially having a harmful experience having the car. Of course, if there was some type of serious penetrating rust that could mess up their driving experience as well, that should be taken care of. You don't want them falling through the car looking like the Flintstones or something like that. And the next big thing that some people really don't even think matters is what the condition is like inside as well. So making sure what the car looks like is actually presentable as well. People actually take time to think about what the car will be like driving. And if they can't see themselves in the car because it's some filthy car, don't judge off of this. This is a work truck, okay? Don't judge off of this, but you have to keep that in mind. But for this, even doing things like a simple detail, or let's say even doing things like refreshing the car, making the car smell better, can go a very long way. All right, we're back inside again. My bad. I know I got you jumping all over the place, going between inside, outside. But we're gonna talk about selling the car now. So first of all, I mean, it's not too hard generally when it comes to selling the car if you did all of the other things previously the right way. Buying it right, you know, doing the right checks for the car, making sure the car is all good when it comes time to selling as well. So selling the car should be one of the easier parts of the process, but the main things we're going to be using to sell the car is primarily going to be either Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp as well. All right, so we're going to be using Kelley Blue Book as one of the main reference points. Again, we're going to be using the same thing as what we were using before to actually buy the vehicle, and we're going to be looking at what it sells for on average. And let's say for this car, it sells for average around $5,600, and this is in good condition as well. Most cars that you're going to be selling, especially in Facebook Marketplace and everything, are going to be on good condition. Generally, let's say very good condition would be more so cars that really have like not only no mechanical problems, but let's say they're in like dang near immaculate condition. But generally what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at that average selling price and then potentially just trying to go a little below that just to try to sell the car a little bit faster as well. Of course, if you're a full-on dealership, you'll be using other sites as well, but this is more of a beginner video. And then boom, you post it up on, again, Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp for that pricing. Most people, hopefully at this point, are going to be hitting you up. Of course, there's probably going to be some low ballers. Ignore them. Don't let them get to you. But you just want to set a bottom dollar price that you're willing to go to yourself in your mind. And if it is where they potentially are like $100 off from that price, just let it go. Don't end up being where you have to wait a whole nother like week or two to sell the car to someone else just to make an extra $100. It's not that serious. And if you haven't seen it before, I did actually put together a flipping series where I'm flipping $1,000 and I'm turning it all the way to $100,000 and just scaling up over time. And I'm showing you step by step what I'm doing as well, so you can kind of follow along with me. If you want that video, you could press here, there, wherever the video is at to actually click into that video as well. But if you like everything that you got, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for more in the next part of those series as well. And of course, share the content if it's going to be for someone else that's also into flipping cars. But all right, until next time, peace.